Welcome to the Loud Whisper Takeover podcast, where we talk about intuition and creative stuff. Today, we're going to talk to an actor, public speaker, music, songwriter, singer, dancer, straight out of Guadeloupe. His name is Patrice Turlet. Hey, Patrice, how are you doing?
Hi, Cindy. I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on the podcast. And hello, everyone listening.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. So obviously, we're going to talk about your creative journey and you as a human being, but also about numerology and how numerology can perhaps empower us as artists on our journey. So can you give us a snapshot of your story as a creative and how and what got you into numerology?
Basically, it started when I was very young. My mom was into writing, so I started writing. I was like 4 or 5. My sister was a dancer, so I started dancing also very early on, performing for the family first and like different talent shows and things like that. Then when I was more like a teenager, around 16, 15, 16, I got into dancing more seriously. So hip hop dancing and singing also. So gospel, R&B, singing and all of that stuff. And along with that, I also was on a spiritual journey very early on, a very conscious spiritual journey very early on. When I was 7 years old, I was already thinking of how to better myself and how to answer very deep questions. So I started the dancing, all the performing and the creative stuff and the spiritual journeys all one for me. They all go together. And as for numerology, obviously, because you guys don't know, but Cindy and I, obviously, we know each other for a long time. And I went to London in my 20s. When I was 21, I stayed there for 10 years, mainly worked as a dancer. And later on, I started acting. And I went back to the Caribbean because I was born in Paris, but then my parents were in the Caribbean. So I went back to the Caribbean. And this is in 2011. And I met a woman, which is now a very good friend of mine, who decided to introduce me into numerology. And she gave me my first numerology reading. And I was amazed how much she was accurate and how much she knew about myself without knowing me. I was like, how come so many information are in my birth date and my names, and this woman doesn't know me yet she can read me like a book?
Could you actually explain what numerology is to those that actually don't know much about it? What is it and how are you using it?
Well, numerology, it comes from basically in your names. So all your names and your birth date, you have a bunch of information. So basically you do some calculations, specific calculations, and you can draw different informations like your missions, your life mission, your qualities, the thing you need to watch out for if you want to avoid certain pitfalls and things like that. You can also know about forecasting, so you can actually know what's coming for you in different time of your life. So it can help you anticipate and use it to better improve your chances of feeling happy in the process of reaching your dreams, basically.
So you're doing certain calculations. You said that the woman that introduced you to numerology knew everything about you and that was very accurate.
Yeah.
Do you feel you can now also read people in a very different way and read artists because you're coaching artists as well? Can you read them in a different way and empower them even more through numerology?
Yeah, most definitely. First, you have to accept certain things about numerology. It's about destiny. Some people believe that destiny is not written, whereas numerology comes from the standpoint that destiny is kind of written, not in the specifics, but in the energy that the energies that are going to play themselves out. And when you think about people not as matter, but as energy, then numerology can help you understand what kind of energy makes you and how to play around with those energies so that you can better your life and advance in your path with a more serene and in a more peaceful way, basically.
So you're saying that there is this concept of destiny. However, there is also a concept of still having responsibility, or you still have the power to kind of shape that destiny. It's not like it's all written and that's it and that's the path you have to follow. There is a way to use that energy and shift and change gear, like work with it. Can you give us an example of something that you apply to your own life or maybe one of your clients where you were able to look at the numbers and say, okay, these are the numbers that have been given to you, and this is how you can change it? And really, there was a massive impact in their lives or your life.
I'm going to take my example. I think that's the one that I studied the more and I keep studying. And I think that's the one that I can somehow be more accurate about. My life path number is 11. And 11 is a master number, but 11 can also be 1 plus 1, 2. And in numerology, you can always use a positive side of a number or the negative side of the number. And when it comes to 11 and master numbers, we have to not only we have to express the 11, not the 2, but more the 11. And you have to express the 11 in a very positive way. Let me explain. 11, 1 and 1. 1 is basically the number of action. It's a number of individuality. It's the number of fire. And it's a very proactive number. Whereas 2 is a very passive number. And when we have 11, 2 as a life path number, we need to make sure that you use more the 11 than the 2. From very active, you're going to be very passive. And when you become very passive, then you realize that your life is somehow on hold, on a standstill. So what we want to make sure, like me, what happened to me is that when I realized that when the 11 is not active, it creates loads of tension inside of me. So I feel very anxious. I feel nervous, and I feel like a lot of anger also. And we need to use this because the energy is not used. So if it's not used outside, it's going to be eating you from the inside. So we want to use it. So what I had to do, I had to own up to the responsibility of this 11, which is a master number, which has to connect itself to his intuition and inspire others. So it has to be used to inspire others. This is the life path of the 11, 2. If he doesn't express the 11, he becomes passive and wait for life to inspire him, where he has to be the other way around, basically. So me, I have to make sure that every day when I wake up, I have to make sure that I am a source of inspiration for everyone that I meet every day. And also, the 11 has to be, it's like a column that is directly connected to heaven. So basically, the 11 should avoid too much thinking and should be very intuitive in whatever it does. So what I try to always keep this in mind. Do not anticipate too much. Trust the process and always be in line with whatever intuitions dictates you. So this is how every day I live, knowing that it is the best way for me to live my life. And also, it's crazy how effortless my life becomes when I actually activate this 11.
I love the difference that you made between, okay, I'm waking up with this question, how can I inspire others? Because obviously, if you were to wake up with this question, how can life inspire me today? You would be in the passive seat, and that's not a part of your highest life purpose. Can you give us like some other examples of like what other numbers could represent? If somebody had another number, could you give us another concrete example of how that would translate? What question would they need to wake up with?
Yeah, let's say you have 4 as a life path. By the way, if you want to calculate your life path, one easy way, there are many other ways, but you can just add up all the numbers in your birth dates. So let's say if you were born on the 10th of February 21. So it will have to be, what did I say? Sorry, I forgot the numbers. The date. So what date can we give? The 10th, yes. I said the 10th of February. So let's say you take 10 and you take 2, so that's 12. and 12 plus, I said 2001, 12 plus 3. So 2001, 2 plus 1 is 3. So you take plus 3, so you get 15. That's right? Yeah, you get 15. So this is how 15 and 15, 1 plus 5 equal 6. So this it gives you a life path number 6. All right, so that's an example. So to answer your question, let's say you have a life path number of 4. Life path number 4 is quite a tricky one. It can easily be a tricky one because the life path 4, the lesson of the life path 4, he has to construct, he has to build. And also the need of someone who has a life path 4 is always to feel secured. This person wants to feel secure, which is a good thing, but yeah, this person has to make sure that this security doesn't become a prison. And 4 is like a box. So in the lower expression of the 4, you will want security and you will start being fearful of the world. So you will remain in your box. But what we want the 4 to be, we want it to be a box on which you stand to lift yourself. So you need to find a way to secure your life in one way, but in another way, for it to elevate you and to go higher, not to stay within the box. So this person has to learn to take a risk, should go through fears. Also, because the 4 wants to be secured, this person usually tends to adopt certain type of mindset of limiting beliefs that they find hard to let go because they find a type of security within them. So this person has to find a way to break those beliefs, to break the box, to open the box so you can stand on it. So he has to really break basically the beliefs, all the belief system that actually might slow them down from building more. And because when the 4 is very expressive and is in his full power, it is someone that is very effective and has a very life, very material is very, how do you say this? In terms of matter, in terms of material, life is very concrete. It means that the person usually have very financial stability, has a nice home, a car, everything. He has everything, materially speaking. But it should not be something that slow them down because they can have much, much more.
And so obviously these questions are the main core energy that we come with on Earth. Mm-hmm. That is what you would use to translate in your art as well. So for example, you say you are number 11, you're all about intuition, taking action, inspiring. And a number 4 would be about stepping up or finding something, building sort of thing. It feels like building blocks. Look, how would you translate it in your artistic journey?
You know what? I think depending on where you are in your journey, certain numbers will be more relevant than others. What I mean by that is that the life path number is all, of course, is the most important one because that's where your spiritual growth is. But there are other numbers that might actually be more useful in terms of being practical. For instance, the number of the expression number, which you calculate with all your names. Basically, each letter in your names has a numerical value. So let's say A is the first one in the alphabet, so it's number 1, B is number 2, 3 is number 3, etc., etc. And when you arrive from letter J to J is the 10th letter, so 10 is 1 plus 0, so it's number 1, so you reduce. The K is 11th, so it's 2, etc., etc. So every letter has a numerical value. And when you add up all those numerical values, you get a specific number. And from this number, you can actually have something a bit more practical to work with. For instance, the expression number is let's say the life path number is something that you are, but you need to develop. Whereas the expression number is the tool that you are already. So basically, it's how you express yourself in this life. So let's say my expression number is 3, for instance. 3 is a very artistic number. It's about communication. It's about being a light, being a childish, funny, light-hearted, and it's a very light number. It's an air element. So it's very light. And basically, what's interesting with this number, the expression number, is to learn to express this number always in a positive way. Because the negative way of this, the three, it can be very self-conscious because what other people think of him is very important. The image that it sends to people is very important. So this person can actually lack confidence when the three is expressed in a negative way. This person also has to be careful with communication, not to talk too much, but listen a lot to make sure that his communication is really find a middle ground between his need to feel accepted by communication and the need to actually communicate in a deeper way, basically. So me, to give you another concrete example, I dance salsa. And one day I was in a club and there was this guy dancing. And this guy he was so bright. He was shining. There was like hundreds of people in the room. He was the only person I could see. And whoever he was dancing with, he would make this person shine too. And I was like, whoa, I need to speak to this guy. So I went to see him and I asked him, I said, how do you do it? And he said to me, okay, I'm going to show you. So we met and we started dancing. And he said to me, you know what? I think you don't know what people see when they see you. And he said to me, your best asset is your smile. When you smile, I see you. When you smile, I see you. So when he said that, I was like, yeah, but I don't want to smile all the time. He said, yeah, whatever you want. But I'm telling you, when you smile, I see you. And then my pride was like, I don't want to smile all the time. I do whatever I want. Yes, I do whatever I want. But then I had to reflect on what he said. And it's true. Everyone tells me the same thing. When I smile, I inspire. When I'm light, when I laugh, I inspire. People love my smile. And this is a fact, whether I like it or not. And then I realized that every time I smile, every time I'm joyful, everything is easy for me. And I think it could apply to anyone. I think a smile is always better than being grumpy all the time. But some people manage to go through life being grumpy and it works for them. But me, I really have to be smiling all the time. And then when I realized that, I was like, okay, let me try to use this number and try to be more of these three. And because the three, for instance, could be also very sensitive. And I try to be less sensitive. I'm like, oh, don't take things lightly. Be light. Be like a child. Be light. And then, so this is what I do. And when I work with my three, when my three is optimized, life is much smoother. And this is what I do when I do my reading. I look at the expression number and we try to see how can you use this number to optimize your chance to have like a smooth life, basically.
In the beginning of this chat, you talked about avoiding pitfalls and that numerology could help you forecasting and anticipate things. How are you using numerology to forecast possible problems within your personal life or your creative life?
Yeah, this is a good one. When you forecast, basically the energies are written. We just don't know how they're going to play out, which means that when I believe that any numerology chart has the potential to be great. I believe that everyone can have a great life. But I believe also that if you don't do anything about certain charts, I mean, certain numerology charts, when you look at them, you're like, okay, this person, it looks quite smooth and quite easy. This person has easy. But some, you're like, whoa, this one is a bit trickier, which means that there are two ways to live your life. I mean, I'm going to be very basic. There are two ways to live your life. Either you live it and as a way that you don't try to be spiritual. So you're going to be, you just living your life as what you see is what is, or you're going to live life knowing that there are bigger things and therefore live it in a more spiritual way. And if you decide to go the spiritual way, you're going to unblock a certain problem area of your charts. For example, there are what we call karmic lessons. There are certain numbers that you don't have, certain people don't have, in the expression number. I mean, in the names. They're like me, for instance, I don't have no 4, no 6, and no 8, which means I have no D, M, V, F, O, X, H, Q, and Z. I don't have these letters in my names. Therefore, it's like you come in this life with like a bag of tools, and I've got some tools missing, basically. So if I take it as a human, like in the flesh, human flesh and being, obviously you're gonna think that you are imperfect, and it applies to everyone. We are imperfect when it comes to the flesh, but as spirits, we are perfect. Therefore, if you're gonna live your life thinking, okay, I'm just flesh and I'm imperfect, then the area of your chart where the missing numbers appear will be problem areas. You're going to struggle. But if you elevate yourself and try to be more in your spiritual vision and try to use spirituality in certain areas of your life, you're going to unblock those problems because you're going to fulfill the tools that you normally were not supposed to have. You're going to use like a higher power to actually fulfill those areas.
Ooh, hold on a second.
Yes. Yeah.
Hold on
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
Hold
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
second. I
Yeah.
think you're saying something very powerful. Can you just repeat that again
Yeah.
and really emphasize and clarify what you're saying here? Because I feel like you just said something like really important, and I don't want anybody to miss this.
To say it another way, we tend to believe that we are imperfect, but we are not imperfect. We are imperfect in the flesh, but we're not imperfect. We are perfect as a spirit. If you see yourself only as flesh, then you will believe that you are missing things, and you'll be right. But if you actually connect to something higher, you realize that you have much more than what you think, and you can connect to this power, basically. So let's say me, okay, I said I don't have 4, I don't have 6, I don't have 8. Before, when I was younger, when I started with numerology, I thought that I had to improve myself. So I try to work on those areas. Like, for instance, 4 is about being organized. It's about to work hard and all of these things. 6 is about relationships. 8 is about finishing, fulfilling achievements. It's about 8 is about achievements. And if I look at my flesh, I'm very lazy. It's the truth, man. I'm very lazy. And I tend to procrastinate. And if I work only with matter, if I only work with the world, then I struggle. And then I struggled. And at some point, I was like, there are some areas I struggle a lot, financially, especially. I struggled for a long time. And because it's like I couldn't understand not how to make money, but how to keep the momentum to be financially secure. Because I was at some point, I would always feel very lazy. I would like, oh, I can't be bothered. I want the money, but I can't be bothered to do the job and to work hard to do it. And then I realized that this is why I was broke. But then I realized that I was trying to do everything on my own with the tools that I didn't have. Therefore, I tried to connect to something more spiritual, to like what I call the source, the divine source, God or whatever we want to call it. And I felt like I need to connect to this source to guide me to do the right thing at the right time, to make sure that anything that I need with the 4, the 6, and the 8 are fulfilled. So I had to let go of my way of thinking because my way of thinking wasn't working. Somehow I don't have the tools. So when I try with my own brain, when I limit myself to the brain, it doesn't work because I don't have the tools. But when I connect myself to my mind, which is much bigger, which is connected to the higher mind, then I've got all the infos that I need to actually fulfill those areas where I struggled with before. And knowing this saves you a lot of time because if you think you need to improve yourself, I think that's a wrong. That's not a good path to take. It's too much of a struggle and too much work. You can have it with much more ease.
There are so many important things that you're saying right now. So I'm going to try to bounce back on one element at a time. So the first thing you were talking about abundance and not finding the way of keeping momentum, of keeping money flowing in. And I feel a lot of artists can probably relate to that. Through the artistic path, a lot of artists do struggle with abundance, or at least abundance in the long term. So when it comes to abundance, you and me had a chat recently about you do now believe that on peut avoir le beurre et l'argent du beurre. So if I have to translate that saying in French, is you can have it both ways. You don't have to choose between the big car and the big house. You can have and the big car and the big house. You can have it both ways. You can work very little hours and have a lot of money. You don't have to do and many hours to have a lot of money. So what has shifted for you in that area? And has numerology played a role in that, in your concept of abundance?
Yeah, because in my chart, basically, there's one point in my chart where there is 44/8 in my forecast, and so which means that this is a time in my life where it can work both ways. Either I'm gonna be broke and financially it's gonna be a disaster, or I'm gonna be very abundant. And I knew this time was coming. And it was not only about money, it's also about, because four is a very earthly element. So it's all about matters. So it's about the body, it's about health, it's about material abundance, it's about what you can actually touch. It's very concrete. So I knew that this thing coming into my life, I had to be very careful because it could actually go anyways. It could actually be disastrous or it could be wonderful. So at first, I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I understand how to work the rules, basically, of success, but in a very intellectual way to understand. I wanted to understand. So I started doing this, and then I started working, and I made all those strategies online and online courses and coaching and all that. And money came flowing. But then I was like, yeah, I've got the money, but it was tiring. And I didn't like that. I was like, no, man, I can't be bothered. It's too much work. then, but so then I thought to myself, it has to be, it has to be another way. There must be another way. There must be a way to actually fulfill those missing lessons, those missing tools with something that is with more ease. And I said to myself, back in the days, usually I used to read all those spiritual books about the law of attraction and thinking your thought attracts what you think the most about. But it was very funny because also or reading all those books, many of those books tells you that your mind is everything and matters follows your mind. But yet many people tell you that you have to put in place certain strategy, that you have to work, you have to go towards your goals. But then I felt like, why? If the mind is so powerful, I shouldn't have to work so hard. So then I said, okay, so maybe I didn't understand the task. Maybe the task is not to understand how business works and how to plan better and how to be something that I'm not, because this is not what I am. I don't have those tools. So why would I change? And I thought to myself, I must be able to be successful without the tools that I don't have. So I decided to try something else. So I tried to fulfill those areas with my mind and believe that I was actually, I didn't need to work more and I didn't need to do more. I just believed that I was complete. And when I realized that I was complete and that the universe had to bring me the right opportunities, the right people to fulfill the areas that I'm not good at. And this is what actually happens now. I used to dream of being like a TV host. And then I started putting videos online. But again, it was too much work for me. I didn't want to do it. All I wanted to do is host the show. I didn't want to set it. And when I let go of the idea that I had to set it, then the people came to me. And now all I have to do is host the show and think about the content, because I let go of the idea that I had to do what I'm not made to do.
Obviously, I've known you for quite a long time. I think we've been friends for 20 years or something.
Mm.
And there are many things that you've created, manifested, attracted in your life, whether that is being a TV host, you were on radio as well, you've been a TEDx speaker, you landed roles as an actor and all of that. So artists always have big dreams. They want to make a film, they want to be casted in a role, they want to do a certain dance show. But you and me have also talked about the fact that we can become a slave to our dreams and
Yes.
goals. And now you have new perspectives on that. Can you talk a bit more about that? What does it mean to be a slave to our dreams and goals?
One thing I want to say that I haven't told you, Cindy, is that what's been happening to me lately, I haven't told you. And I really have very amazing stuff that happened to me. I'm going to tell you offline. But why I'm saying this is because you've known me and I've known you for a long time. You've achieved a lot of things, and so did I. But I believe that I was much more. And I was very frustrated that the thing that I really wanted, I didn't have. Because yes, I hosted a show back in the days. It didn't really last, and it wasn't really like a show that I wanted to host. It wasn't my dream show. It wasn't that at all. But since I've switched my way of thinking, now I actually attracted things that spot on, really spot on. Because yes, I landed roles before, but if I had to be honest, I was very frustrated because I landed roles, but not the roles that I really wanted. It was always a feeling like it's not bad, but it's not it. And I was very frustrated with this because I want the big deal, and we all want the big deal. And I would just want to tell you this, just not to misguide people and make them think that I always felt successful. It wasn't always the case. Although, yes, I did everything that you said, but the way I always felt that was much more. And this much more that I want you guys to actually connect to. Because I believe that maybe it could have gone a bit faster for me if I knew what I know now. But, obviously no regrets, because it's a beautiful journey. And now I get to enjoy everything much more now. But I believe it's because my focus was somehow distracting. It was, how do you say that? It wasn't really, I was shooting myself in the foot, basically, without knowing it. So now let me explain. Let me go back to what you said about our dreams. The thing with our dreams as artists, we are so driven. We so want it that we do everything to go and have it and make sure that we're going to make it happen. And when you do this, what you're actually saying is that you are on your own. You're not using a more powerful force to help you. You're not using God to help you. You try to do it on your own. And when you try to do it on your own, you try to do it with your flaws. And you always think that you're not enough. And because you think like this, all your action without knowing it, you think, I used to think that I was driven by my dreams, but really I was driven by fear, because I feared that if I didn't do, I would not have. And that to me was a big misconception, because I think that our dreams, if we have our dreams, is because they are already written. And I believe that every dream that you have is not even your dreams. They are not even your dreams. They've been assigned to you. Therefore, the only reason that you don't get your dreams is not because they're not yours. It's because you don't accept the process to get them. And numerology shows you like a map, gives you a map of what you're going to go through in your life. But not so much so you can get your dreams, because it's a done deal. You're going to get your dreams, you're going to get them. But the numerology will help you to understand that you not only you're going to get your dreams, but you're going to get much more. And why I'm saying this is because life is all about cycles. You have different cycles, and we need to You have to go with those cycles, the flow of the energy that is influencing your life at each moment in time, and not trying to make the dream because the dream is already done. Because the time doesn't exist really. What you dream of, you actually accessing the future, telling you this is what you're gonna get, this is what you already have. So so there's no point in trying to get there because you're already there. I know I'm not trying to get too deep into this, but what I'm trying to tell you is that there are so many other things that you need to live that you don't even think of. For instance, me, I didn't think I would have kids, and I had kids. I didn't think I would be living in the Caribbean. I live in the Caribbean. I didn't think I would tour and I would have like a stand-up act and tour in France and in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. I didn't know those things. I didn't dream of, and yet they happen, and I love them because there is so much more in store for you if you let it, if you go with the flow of what is written for you. And it's like me when I look at my charts. That okay? Let me give you an example again. If you take your day of birth, and your birthday and your birth month, so you add those two and you add the year, the current year. For instance, if you were born the 1st of January, whatever year, you're going to put the 1st of January. So that's 1 and 1. So that's 2. And you're going to add the current year. So the current year is 2024. So it adds up to 8. So 8 plus 2 is 10. So which means that this year at your birthday on the 1st of January, going to start your year 1. So the year 1 is the energy for 1 year. This is the energy that's going to play itself out the whole year. So knowing this influence is going to be here, you know that it's a good year to start anew, to put on project, to do new stuff, and to put things into action. It's an action year. It's like it's a year where you can shine individually, and that you have to be creative and put the things that you want. If you actually have to go for your dream, it's actually the good year to go to do this. However, if you are in year 7 and you were trying to reach your dreams, there's no point really in doing this. I'm not saying that you should not do it, but you should lower your expectation, because a year 7 will not help you achieve things or concrete way. Because the year 7 is a spiritual year. It's an introspection year. You have to go within. So it's a year to know more about yourself. It's not a year to actually try to be abundant. I'm not again saying that you should not be doing what you want. I'm just saying that you should lower your expectation, because the influence wants you to be more introvert, to go inside, to go deep within yourself, so that you can connect even more with your spirituality, because this year wants this from you. And don't think you're wasting time. You're not wasting time, because you never waste time. And that's one thing that we tend to think that's what we do. But as artists, we have to be very patient, but not patient as that you wait to get what you want. No, patient in a way that you should really enjoy the ride. Because if you try too hard, you're missing certain steps. And by missing certain steps, you're missing your growth, your growth that is needed sometime to actually get what you want. So for example, last year I was on year 9, and year 9 is a year where you finalize things. And you have to basically, it's a cycle of 9 years. So the 9th year, really you finish things off and you prepare for the following cycle. But nothing really big happens on year 9. You prepare stuff. So you finish off where you started and you kind of prepare for the following cycle. And it's only on year 1, when you reach year 1, that things going to be a bit more busy. So don't expect on year 9, don't be frustrated on year 9 if you don't achieve the things that you want. You can still set up different projects, but most probably it's on year 1 that they're going to take off.
Yeah, I love what you said about cycles, because often as artists, we can feel very frustrated. Oh my God, my project is not taking off the ground. And when things are not moving, it can be such a frustrating process. But like you said, there are cycles in life. And if on top of it, there is something like numerology that can enlighten us a little bit more on, if we are in a slow cycle or in a cycle where we should just sit a bit more in meditation and direct our energy in another direction. I think it's very powerful. And I love what you said about your dream has been assigned to you, because I have a similar sort of saying. I always say the universe will never give us those big ideas without giving us the resources to make it happen. Because why would they plant, the seed in our brain and not give us the whole toolbox that goes with it to actually make it a reality?
Definitely.
And so I would love to talk about connection with source. You have been talking a lot about listening to your intuition and also to connecting with source. And obviously, this podcast is about connecting with our loud whisper. If somebody is in a position where they're like, look, at the moment, I feel very disconnected from my inner compass, or I feel very disconnected, or I don't hear what source is telling me, what advice or top tips would you give them, or what are you doing to connect with source, with that intuition on a daily basis, weekly basis, in life in general? Or even when you say I started thinking differently, like what are you actually implementing in your life to create that belief, to create that new thought?
I stopped thinking about myself in a much bigger way. Before, I used to think of Patrice. I'm Patrice, and I'm going to be big. I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. I am this, I am that. I am not this, I am not that. And now I try to discard a little bit what I think I am. And I forget a bit about that. And I try to think of myself being not a body, but like a spirit. And I try to see myself being one with God at the same level. Therefore, whenever I think something that is below what God could be, it means that I'm misthinking. My thinking is not right. It's not possible. So therefore, whenever I feel like I doubt, or when I have fear, any fear, let's say, okay, let me give you an example, because we were talking about finance, for instance. When you feel scarce, when for instance, that, when you spend money and you feel that there's something inside of you telling you the money is going lower and lower and lower, and eventually I'm going to go into the red, and you don't want this, basically. And when you have this feeling where it's like you're shrinking from inside, is very weird. You think of your bank balance and you feel like you're shrinking. When you actually think that you're shrinking, that's exactly when you should tell you it is not possible, because what I am cannot shrink. It can only expand. I'm like God. I expand through love. I expand through abundance. This is what I am. It's not something that I need to receive. This is what I am. And I try to bypass what my sight see. I try not to judge what I see. I really try to connect to what I am, because now I understand completely that what I think is what I manifest. So therefore, every time I feel like a lower thought about myself or about something outside of me, I try to tell myself it's not possible, because what you are, it's pure light, it's pure love, it's pure abundance. This is what you are. So if you think differently, you're mistaking yourself, because you think you are this body, you are this weak body, and this body can be scarce, and you identify to it. And when you do this regularly, you do it on a constant basis. With time, you start to readjust your mind, and you realize what you actually are. And you realize that you are not this body. You are much more than that. And when you look at yourself, you don't even see yourself. You say, oh, it's just a projection, just an image. It's just a symbol. Therefore, there's nothing to fear. And I'm like, that's all I do, really. I just readjust my thinking and realize that what I think can't be right. I'm sick to think that I could actually be scarce. It's not possible. And when you do this, the more and more you do it, and your life starts to readjust. Like my dreams, for instance. You see, I used to go and try to reach my dreams. And when I think about my dreams, before I was like, I thought it was a good thing to think about my dreams and think, okay, I need to go and reach my dreams and it will make me feel good. But when I do this, I'm actually saying that I'm not complete. So now when I think about my dreams, I don't see my dreams as something that will complete me. I realize it's because I am complete that my dream will be fulfilled. My dream will not fulfill me. I fulfill the dream.
It's so powerful what you said. What I am can only expand and cannot shrink. And also what you said about I'm not fulfilling the dream. It's because of who I am. Hold on, let me rephrase that. Can you say that sentence again? So I can write it down properly.
I said, the dream doesn't fulfill you. You fulfill the dream.
Yeah, that really lands very deeply. It's so beautiful and powerful. Patrice, it was such an honor and a blast to talk to you today. Obviously, we know that there will be a part 2, a part 3, a part 4, a part 5 between you and me, because there's so much we want to cover. Today, we focused on numerology and how that can empower us on our paths. If people want to know more about you, because obviously your box is so big, from stand-up comedy to numerology to acting to writing, where can people find you on Instagram?
Patrice Turlet. How do you say it in English? Patrice Turlet. Yeah.
I would say Patrice Turlet. Yeah, that's how I would say it.
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram. I like people to actually reach out to me and feel free, really, even on Facebook, wherever, feel free.
Awesome. I'm sure that your DMs will be filled if you allow people to contact you directly, which is awesome. So, Patrice, I can't wait for us to record part 2, 3, 4, and 5. Thank you so much for all the wisdom that you've shared with us today. What is actually a good book that you would recommend to people if they want to know more about numerology? Of course, they can also contact you for some personal coaching, I believe. And is there any sort of resource, book, or something that you would also recommend?
Yes, there is one numerologist. It depends. It depends what you're looking for. If you want really in-depth numerology and you want to really learn the craft of numerology, what I will recommend is a guy called Richard Andrew King. And he has a series of books, which is called The King's Book of Numerology. And he has like 12 or 13. I've got them all at home. Yeah, I think 13 books on the topic of numerology. He will explain to you very in-depth numerology. If you want still good numerology, but a bit more for beginners and more to know about the topic in general, I would recommend, her name is Felicia Bender. And she has a book, The Ultimate Guide to Practical Numerology. It's a good book. I mean, there are many. And again, don't hesitate to actually reach out and I'll give you more references. If you want like a very in-depth numerology chart, reach out to me because I'm good at it. I'm very good at it.
Of course you are. Awesome. Thank you so much, Patrice.
Thank you very much for having me. Bye-bye, guys.